We are 89 seconds to midnight, according to the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists. It's earlier in the day. It's a little bit earlier in the day than 89 seconds to midnight, as you can see. But I'm at the Japanese Peace Pagoda at Willen Lake, which since 1980 has been a great symbol of peace and for nuclear disarmament, built by Japanese monks who wanted to mark the anniversary of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima. And later today, here at this Peace Pagoda, there's going to be a major international ceremony to mark the 80th anniversary of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima on the 6th of August 1945. That anniversary that we're marking today at this seminar was a very important event, not only in terms of how the world has changed, but also changed my life. My parents waited until the end of the Second World War to get married in September 1945. And I was working as a journalist in 1979, involved in the campaigns against siting a nuclear power station at Carnsore in County Wexford, when I was offered an opportunity to study journalism and economics and politics in Japan for the summer of 1979. And that summer I went right throughout Japan, met the hibakusha, or the survivors of the atomic bombing of both Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and during that study trip went to Hiroshima to see the site of the atomic bombing, to meet victims of the bombing, to visit the museum and to talk to people. And the one thing that people there kept on saying to me was, let everybody know, tell them exactly what happened, tell them what you see that this is never going to happen again. And when I came back in the autumn of 1979, I checked out to see how many members of the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament were living in Ireland at the time. There was myself. There was John Carroll, who was then the vice president of what was called the Irish Transport and General Workers Union, based in Liberty Hall, now SIP2, and 4 other people. And I decided we had to do something about this. We were about to build a nuclear power plant at Carnsore, which was going to produce weapons-grade uranium and weapons-grade plutonium, without any consideration of where that was going to be used, who it was going to be sold on to, where the uranium was going to come from. I called a meeting in Dublin to present a petition to the Department of Foreign Affairs, and then called a meeting to show the War Game, the film that warned about what the consequences of a nuclear war were going to be. Called together the members of CND, and within a few months of calling those meetings, the American government and the British government had decided to deploy Pershing and cruise missiles throughout Europe, in Germany and Britain, and the Russians were deploying SS-20 missiles. The nuclear threat to the whole world was at a height then that we never realized was possible 35 years after the bombing of Hiroshima. I continued to be involved in the protests against the proposals to build a nuclear power station at Carnsore. And this pagoda was built in 1980 by monks who then came as my guests to visit Dublin, to visit the Department of Foreign Affairs, and also to visit the proposed sites for uranium mining in Donegal. A lot of water has gone under the bridge since then. I remained as an active member of the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament in Ireland, but there were other people who were doing a huge amount of work at that time that really did achieve things. Trade Union CND, local branches, Christian CND, all got towns and cities around the country to declare themselves nuclear-free zones. The women from Greenham Common, many of them from Ireland, managed to get in on top of the silos at Greenham Common and brought an end to the presence of nuclear missiles on British soil, we can achieve things. We can achieve things, but it seems things are getting worse because the scientists are warning us that we're at 89 seconds to midnight. Nuclear holocaust and the threat of nuclear war is being aggravated by the policies of the Trump regime, the Putin regime, the British government's decision to deploy new missiles on British soil. All of this has been aggravated by the global climate changes, global warming, but also the Trump regime is blurring the grounds between truth and falsehood. We were told back in the 1980s, at the height of the Cold War, that we were living in the age of MAD, what was known as mutual assured destruction, that the awesome threat of nuclear missiles and nuclear weapons prevented the Russians and the Americans from making any mad decisions about using that awesome threat. Nowadays, it seems that Trump has no problems about threatening to use nuclear weapons against regimes like Iran, bombing supposed nuclear facilities in Iran without ever having the moral questioning to look at his own finger being on the nuclear button. The very fact that Israel too is a covert nuclear power. Trump has been complicit in allowing the border war to break out between India and Pakistan. No matter what he says about bringing peace to that region, the Americans knew exactly what they were doing when they were supplying the material that made it possible for India and Pakistan to develop nuclear weapons. And we move closer and closer to war every day. As the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists has warned earlier this year, we are 89 seconds to midnight. I'm sitting here in beautiful sunshine in Milton Keynes, beneath the pagoda that was erected as a symbol of hope by survivors of the first use of nuclear weapons in Hiroshima. What are we going to do? Where do we find the will to resist? Where do we keep on making sure that our voice is heard? Let's not be silenced by the merchants of lies, by the merchants of fake news in the White House or in the Kremlin. Let's make sure that we continue to say that despite the wars in Ukraine and Gaza and Israel and Syria, India and Pakistan, the borders between Thailand and Cambodia, although it looks worse than things were at the height of the Cold War, although nuclear weapons are continuing to increase, the mighty fall, dictators tumble, empires crumble, the people can win. We can still see 80 years later that there is hope for ending nuclear stockpiling and for ending the nuclear arms race. I still believe that 80 years after Hiroshima. I still have hope. I still refuse to live in fear. I refuse to bow the knee to evil dictators.